They thought Africa would always depend on them. They thought Africa would always beg, always borrow, always wait for permission. But then a soldier stood up, not in a suit, not with polished speeches, but with raw conviction, grit, and purpose. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, at just 34 years old, he became the leader of Burkina Faso. And within months, he began shaking the very roots of neo-colonial control. This is not just about one country. This is a blueprint. Because what Traoré is building might just be Africa's most important silent revolution. Let's take you through the bold, emotional, and unbelievable journey of how President Ibrahim Traoré is rebuilding his nation and setting an example for a continent long suppressed. Segment 1. The battle for food independence. In many African nations, food is imported at a high cost despite having the land, water, and labor to grow it locally. Traoré saw this as madness. He didn't launch speeches. He launched tractors. Over 8,000 young Burkinabé were trained and equipped, given not just land, but seeds, fertilizer, irrigation pumps, motorcycles, and modern tools. He called it the IPP3 initiative. But to the people, it was hope with fuel in its tank. Tomato harvests jumped. Millet production soared. Rice fields, once abandoned, came back to life. And this wasn't charity, it was investment in sovereignty. Because to Traoré, food is not just a meal. It is a weapon. And hunger has been Africa's quietest war. He's ending that war. Segment 2. Reclaiming the gold beneath their feet. Burkina Faso is rich in gold. But for years, that gold didn't shine for its people. Foreign companies dug, extracted, exported, and left locals with crumbs. So, what did Traoré do? He ordered the construction of Burkina Faso's first state-controlled gold refinery. Its mission? Refine 400 kilograms of gold per day. Not in France, not in Dubai, right in Ouagadougou. Jobs were created, value was retained, but more importantly, the message was clear. Africa must no longer be a source of raw riches for others to process, sell, and profit from. And it didn't stop there. He banned artisanal gold exports to shut down backdoor deals and illegal smuggling routes that had robbed the country for decades. To the West, this was radical. To his people, it was justice. Segment 3. Lighting the nation one solar panel at a time. Power cuts, darkness, broken infrastructure. These were normal in many parts of Burkina Faso. But Traoré refused to normalize failure. He looked up to the sun and decided it would become their new generator. Projects like the Dunson Solar Power Station, Zena Solar Plant, and Peace Solar Facility began supplying tens of megawatts of clean energy to homes and businesses. These were not just engineering projects. They were declarations that Africa has light and that it would no longer live in the shadow of foreign-owned power grids. In villages where children used to study by candlelight, now solar lamps glowed. In hospitals that once lost patients during power outages, generators stayed off because solar stayed on. Segment 4. Roads, airports, and a new map for trade. To move a nation, you need roads. To build a future, you need infrastructure. Traoré initiated new roads, highways, and bridges not just to connect cities, but to connect dreams. Gravel paths were upgraded. Supply chains were restored. The dry port of Ouagadougou, a once forgotten logistic hub, is now being revived with over 150 billion CFA in investment. Even the country's airport, Ouagadougou-Dunson, is getting a facelift. Not for luxury, but to handle trade, travelers, and transport like never before. Burkina Faso is no longer a landlocked nation. It's becoming a trade-connected hub, faster, cheaper, and on its own terms. Segment 5. Industry and jobs built from dust. Factories, machines, labor, sweat. That's what Traoré believes a nation must build for itself. The new CISINOB cement plant is now producing over 2,000 tons of cement per day. That's not just material. That's literal foundation for housing, schools, and hospitals. Fosofani, a legendary textile factory once closed, is back in motion. producing fabrics from Burkinade cotton, and creating jobs for women and youth. For too long, African cotton was shipped abroad and returned as expensive clothing. Traoré asked a simple question: why? And now cotton processing facilities in Bobo-Dioulasso and Ouagadougou are answering that with looms, threads, and local pride. Segment 6. Health and housing for the forgotten. In many African countries, healthcare is an afterthought. Not for Traoré. The new 500-bed university hospital in Bobo-Dioulasso is under construction with support from China, but driven by his government's priorities. It's not just for the cities. Rural communities are seeing new clinics, mobile health teams, and trained medical workers deployed to places that once relied on herbal guesses for treatment. And for those displaced by conflict, over 1,000 social housing units are being constructed for free, not with speeches, with bricks, because Traoré knows that development without dignity is just decoration. Segment 7. Water and the Rural Revolution. Without water, there is no agriculture, no health, no life. Traoré's administration began rehabilitating dams like Baobi, capable of storing 100,000 cubic meters of water. He launched national irrigation programs that brought dried lands back to life. Fish ponds were restored, crops returned. Women gathered water not from hours away but from the edge of their farms. World Bank programs like Paris and SNDA 2023 to 2027 are partnering to modernize agroecology and bring water security. 2000s. He calls it rural transformation, but it's really rural liberation. Segment 8. A new African voice. As Traoré builds, he also speaks against imperialism, against foreign interference. He doesn't just challenge France, he challenges silence. His speeches electrify youth across the continent. From Dakar to Dar es Salaam, young Africans whisper his name like a symbol of what's possible. They see his dusty boots, his military fatigue, but more than anything, they see that he never sold out. And for the first time in decades, a generation believes that a leader might actually be building for them. Closing message. This is not about politics. This is not about left or right. This is about a leader who asked, why not us? Why not now? And instead of waiting for answers, he built them. President Ibrahim Traoré's projects are not perfect, but they are powerful. They are purposeful. And they remind us that a continent long dismissed is now rising not just with noise, but with roads, solar plants, food, and factories. Africa is watching. The world is watching. And Traoré is working. Like, comment, subscribe, because this movement is just getting started. Would you like the same voiceover as an audio recording or turned into slides or chapters for upload?